Welcome to today's RUC People, and I'm delighted to be joined by Annette Newmarch, who has been a member of this church for quite a number of years now.
I think it's about 10.
It's about 10 years, yes. And is also our longest serving member of our church council. So welcome, Annette.
Thank you. Thanks, Russell. Thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah. So Annette, tell us a little bit about your story. We want to hear more about you, and maybe the best way is to go back to the beginning. So tell us where you were born, a little bit about your family of origin, where you grew up, where you went to school.
Well, going back to the beginning is going back quite a long way. I was born in Johannesburg. My parents were both British. They'd come over to this country and met here when they were in their teens. I was born the same year as the royal family visited South Africa. So anybody who's good at maths can work out how old I am. Yes, and then fortunately they made the decision when I was about 3 years old to move to Cape Town. So they'd actually been married for 14 years before I was born. And then my brother arrived exactly a year later.
Were you the firstborn?
I was the firstborn, yes.
That was a long wait for the
first. It was a very long wait, yes. But anyway, I'm here, and my brother arrived a year later, so there's the two of us in the family. And when my sort of youth was therefore in Cape Town, I went to school here.
Whereabouts in Cape Town?
Well, in the southern suburbs.
Right.
So my brother and I were the first pupils at Berkeley House in Kenilworth, and then he went to Western Province and I went to Oakhurst, and I was at Oakhurst for about 2 years, and then I moved to St. Cyprian's where I finished my schooling. And my brother went to St. Andrews. So we were very fortunate with the education we got.
What kind of kid were you? Were you a keen student? Did you like school?
I was, Russell, I did. In fact, my nickname was Project. So and I played hockey. I played a lot of hockey. In those days, sport was compulsory. You played 2 in the winter and 2 in the summer. That was hopeless at swimming, but loved hockey. And so anyway, when my school days were over, all I wanted to do was to travel. I think it had been instilled in me by my parents who'd come from overseas, and they talked a lot about it, and I wanted to do that. So I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I was very fortunate. I got a position at Cyprus Trust as a clerk come secretary. And I worked there for a while, saving up all the money I could to make my travel dreams come true. So I arrived in swinging London in the 60s.
Wow.
And had the most amazing time. None of the travels disappointed me, all the experiences, and I made friends there that I still have today. So it was really a fabulous experience. But not to dwell too much on that, I then came back to South Africa, and on the boat, because we used mail ships in those days, gosh, I do sound ancient, and on the boat coming back, the Transvaal Castle, I met my husband, and we were both children, but 18 months later, we got married, and we actually moved to Hermanus I think we'd been married about 2 years, because the idea was that he would take over the family business in Hermanus.
Okay.
And
what was the family business?
That was the bottling plant for Coca-Cola in the Overberg area. And it was in Mitchell Street, right in the residential area. So it was quite something. And so we lived there for many years. And when I first got there, I was in a bit of shock, because I thought I'd gone to live in an old age home. I think Graham and I were possibly 10 years younger than the youngest people in Hermanus. But that changed, and very much wonderful times of my life. And so we moved down, and we had 3 children, Michael, Christopher, and Anthony. And they had the most incredible childhood. They keep telling me that, so that's how I know they had an incredible childhood. And during that time, 2 things happened that are quite significant. One was suddenly there was an influx of young people to Hermanus. It was quite incredible. That was in the late 70s. And Hermanus just became the most incredible place, wonderful place. We were asked to join the Rotary Club, and working through the ranks, we eventually became president of the Hermanus Rotary Club. And in those days, ladies weren't allowed to become part of the Rotary Club, so we formed our own Rotary Anns. And basically, we were the fundraising arm of the Rotary Club. But they were wonderful, wonderful years. And in the year that Graham was president, he started a project to raise funds and to build the first NSRI base there, Station 17.
NSRI, sorry.
National Sea Rescue Institute. And then much later, in fact, quite recently, about 3 years ago, I was invited to launch the new vessel called Legacy. And so I was on top of the boat, throwing champagne and all those incredible things. But yes, so he got to work on that incredible project. And in fact, the boat was built in our garage. And during my term of office, we pulled off a hat trick and won the Joey Hofmeyr Trophy, which is for a service project. So that was really great.
So a Rotarian and a
Rotarian.
Rotarian, yes.
Yes, a Rotarian.
And a mother of 3.
And mother of 3.
And were you working as well?
No, there was no time for that.
Not that being a mother is not working, but you know what I mean.
I do know exactly what you mean. So, yeah, it was wonderful times. We made lots of friends. We had a wonderful social life. We worked hard. We were in community projects and all of that, yes.
I mean, can I ask, obviously South Africa was going through turbulent times around then. Was sort of Hermanus like a little enclave from a lot of that at that time?
Yes, I would say that it was. It is no longer an enclave from that now, but at that stage, yes, it was. It was. You didn't know there was any issues going on. It was, that's how it was.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But then a new chapter of my life was about to be launched because my husband met somebody else and we got divorced. So the town was too small for the 2 of us. So I moved to Cape Town with the boys.
How old were the boys then?
Well, Michael was already at Rondebosch High School as a boarder, and the other 2 were quite tiny. So we moved to Cape Town. I managed to get them into school, which was wonderful. It wasn't like today where you really struggle to get your children into the school that you want to. And I didn't have a job, and so I just happened to be at the right place at the right time when I got offered a position at the Victorian Offord Waterfront Company in their marketing division. And that was truly exciting. Yes, it was amazing. I was there for 10 years. And during that time, I grew hugely as a mother, single parent, and as a working girl. And my biggest concern was I loved my job so much that I had to be strict on when to stop and go home.
Well, being mother of 3 and a responsible job, being the breadwinner for the family, that's and moving away from where you'd been, that must have been...
It was a huge jump. And in fact, I sometimes don't say it was a new chapter. It was almost like a new book. It was. But I loved my job and I then, during that...
Can I just ask, I mean, the rest of your family, your parents, were they still in Johannesburg? Your brother? I mean, did you have any family support in all of this?
Yes, I did. When I spoke earlier about people moving down to Hermanus, my whole family moved down as well.
Oh, right.
My mum, my dad, my aunt, who was very much part of my life, and my brother and sister-in-law, and they had 3 children. My brother was a doctor, and so he became one of the general practitioners, in fact, a family practitioner in Hermanus. They had 3 children. I had 3 children, so the 6 children grew up together in paradise, so they tell me. There was no, if they wanted to go somewhere, they just went. It was completely free and easy and amazing. In fact, I think back on it and I think, gosh, I was really quite a liberal mom. They used to go and swim in the tidal pools on their own without supervision from me. But we all survived, so that's the main thing, yes.
Yeah.
So
back here, and so you did have some support through that whole episode from family.
Yes, I did. And in the meantime, my father had passed on. And my aunt, and so when I moved back to Cape Town, my mum came with.
Right.
So I did. I could never have done what I did without her. She was really the backbone of helping with the children and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the children managed all that okay as well?
They did, because we bought a house within walking distance of Rondebosch Boys High School. So they literally walked down the road and were in the school grounds.
Right.
So that worked very well. Yeah.
And tell us a bit more about the career at the waterfront. That sounds very interesting.
Oh, it was. When I talk about it, I become quite excited. I was in the marketing division. It was February 92. The waterfront had just opened in the December 91. And there were very few staff. I think if I remember correctly, there were about 20 of us.
Right.
And it was a case of you just did what needed to be done, because the growth was so exponential that it was difficult to kind of contain. So nobody had a job description. You just, if there was something to be done, you just got in and did it. And so I also decided to do some studying, which hadn't really set my mind to, but now that I knew what I wanted to do and I had this wonderful career, I studied PR and marketing and then also business management. So, and that was whilst working and having 3 children and
You're
so
a busy girl.
I was very busy. So, yes, and then that was lovely. And during that time, I also started the Big 6 marketing platform, which was the Robben Island, I hope I can remember all of them, the Waterfront, Table Mountain, what are the others? The other 3, Kirstenbosch, the Botanical Gardens,
Cape Point.
Cape Point, yes. So we had a marketing platform that we worked together.
Boulders.
No, that's part of the nature, Cape Nature. And we had this amazing forum, and we came together about every 3 months and discussed, sort of common problems and common ideas, and to just make Cape Town a much stronger place. Because one of the things the marketing division had as one line, make it the most visited place in South Africa. And we actually did manage to do that in all sorts of ways and so on. So apart from that, I served on the Cape Town Tourism Board, and I also served on the SARCI board. So SARCI standing for South African Association of the Conference Industry. So it's like the business arm of tourism.
Yes.
And I kind of got the tourism side of the waterfront given to me, and so that was very exciting, and it sort of grew me into what I did later on.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay.
So those were very exciting times.
And so what happened after that?
Well, that came to an end, sadly, actually, because I was headhunted to go to Century City.
Ah,
And being a single parent, I allowed things like finance to overrule my heart. And I went, and I'd only there 3 months, and I knew I made a mistake. But I stuck it out for 3.5 years. And then I had to make another change and open a new chapter as well. And I started my own business called African Inspirational Marketing.
nice title.
Yeah, it was.
And tell us, and how did that business go? And what kind of clients did you have? What kind of work were you doing?
Well, it went for 15 years, and it focused on the tourism industry, on the hospitality industry. My clients were guest houses, hotels, restaurants, and I had like 8 clients, and it was like having 8 bosses, actually, because you had to meet all the criteria for each client, which was a little bit different but the same at the same time. So, yeah.
And was it a one-person show, or did you?
It was initially very much a one-person show, sitting with a computer on a table and a chair, and it did grow.
Yeah.
And it went on for 15 years and was closed by COVID, actually.
Oh.
So on the 27th of March 2020, all my clients had to close their doors. So
It was a pretty tough time for tourism.
it was horrendous,
Yes.
horrendous. And so that's how that happened. And I think John was quite delighted because he thought, well, okay, now Annette's going to retire.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's go back a bit. You had your divorce from your first husband, but did you meet somebody else along the way? Well, obviously
Yeah.
John, but tell us.
Yes, I did, because when I was working at the waterfront, I did meet somebody else. In fact, it was somebody I'd known since I was 21. And don't laugh, but he actually was best man when Graham and I got married, and he was Graham's cousin. So I felt very comfortable and safe, and we got married, and we were very happy. And then, sadly, he passed away in 2010 with cancer. So, yeah, so that...
How long had you been together?
I think it was about 16 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that must have been pretty tough to come to terms with as well.
It was, and it had all worked so well because the children knew him, and
Yes.
and
Did he have children as well?
he had an adopted daughter. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So we just met when he came back to Cape Town, and because he'd been living in Johannesburg for many years.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And then there was John.
Yes. So after Owen died, I became a workaholic. I worked from home, and I don't think for about a year, 18 months, I left the house. I just worked just to go to appointments and come back again.
And the boys by then?
Yes, they were growing up and they're starting to move away. Although my youngest son said he wouldn't leave home until he was 40 because there was no need. But he has, and he has. So, but yes, so I just became a workaholic. And for the Christmas, my children bought me hiking boots. They said, you can't carry on like this. You've got to do something different. And without me knowing, John's children had bought him a hiking bag for Christmas. And I joined the Meridian's hiking club, but never did anything about it. The shoes stayed in the cupboard, and that was as far as it went. And then one Saturday afternoon, the walls just closed in on me. And I went onto the website and I looked at what was offered the next morning. And I had no idea whether I could hike or not. I mean, I'd walked, but I knew nothing about hiking. So I phoned the leader, a hike leader, and I remember saying to her, Dee, I've never hiked before, and this is the hike that I'm interested in. You're the leader. Do you think I'll make it? And she threw me a bone and said, Annette, you'll never know unless you try. So I said, I'll see you tomorrow morning. So I arrived for the hike the next morning, and she said to me, just bring something to eat and some water. So I bought a lunch bar, and I had a litre of water in a sling bag because I didn't have a backpack. And off we went. And as I got there, there must have been about 30 people for the hike. And I dropped to the back because I had no experience, and it was quite a tough hike. And this man with this huge rucksack on his back also dropped to the back. And I think Dee had quietly said to him, just keep your eye on her. She doesn't know what she's doing, which was very true. And we got talking right at the back of the hike pack, and we basically never stopped talking. So John and I have been married now for 10 years, and we live in his house. I sold my house, because we had two houses about a block away from one another. So, but interestingly enough, although we lived in such close proximity for over 20 years, we never ever saw one another or met or anything. It was extraordinary. And there we were, and that's it.
And I understand, John's had some serious health challenges of recent days. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, I can. John has got very poor eyesight, which it's glaucoma that he has, and it has deteriorated rapidly, and he lost the sight completely in his one eye. The optical nerve just died, which happens with glaucoma apparently, and now he's got 30% vision in the other eye, but with a scleral lens, it's bumped up to 50%. So he and in December last year, there was an awful thing happened. He had an operation on his good eye to improve the eyesight, and he went in the following day after the op to have a checkup, and he was told it was fantastic. He came home and he lifted a drain cover to clean the swimming pool into a backwash, and his head was lower than his heart, and there was a hemorrhage, and within seconds he went completely blind, which really was very traumatic for him and for me. We both got such a fright. But Helen Keller, I cannot speak highly enough of them. One of their ladies from the low vision division, they'd already closed. It was the 16th of December. They'd already closed for the holidays, and she said, this sounds like an emergency. And she was there within 2 hours and taught John how to walk with a cane, etc., etc. But I think that a miracle was really performed by two surgeons in Cape Town, and they have given him his vision back. They cleared the hemorrhage in his eye, which I didn't even think was possible, but they did. And he's now got, with his scleral lens, 50% vision in the one eye. So he's had to stop driving, obviously. So,
but at least it's sort of relatively functional. He can get on with life.
Yes. But
can he read?
with aid, he can read. Yes. So reading a book is not possible, but he's now got a very sophisticated screen that he can put a book under and read it, or else he reads online. So he's adapted his computer to be able to enlarge and also reverse the screen. So we read black on white, he reads white on black. All these little tricks.
Okay.
I've learned a lot.
And his mobility, can he get around and see where he's going?
Yes, he can. And there was a sort of a fear that he may not be able to go back to hiking, but he selects which hikes he goes on. Dappled shade doesn't work for him. And also he does have a heart problem, so he can't go on steep hikes anymore. So he's got to sort of keep that under control too.
Yeah. And then I think you've also had your own health challenges in recent times.
Yes, last year, a very funny thing happened to me. I just got headaches, which lasted for about 4 months. I was never without a headache, day or night. And I was really put through many tests to see what was wrong, and they couldn't find anything wrong with me at all. But they did definitely put me through them all. So I can say that there's nothing wrong with me and that I'm healthy and the headaches have stopped. Yeah.
Can you put your finger on why or how?
No. Maybe partially to stress, I think.
Yes.
Because I believe that can cause that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, but it's over.
Okay.
I'm very relieved yesterday.
And then obviously your 3 boys have been a big part of your life. Tell us a bit more about them. Have they grown up? Are you now a grandmother? And and you've also inherited some children through John.
Yes, we have. Between John and I, we have 5 children and 10 grandchildren.
Oh, wow.
So, I have the 3 boys. Michael lives in Johannesburg. He has his own company which he started, and he's done very well. It's called Absolute Wealth. It's a financial company. And then Christopher, he lives in Hout Bay. Michael has got 3 children. And he's just married. In fact, I better rethink that, because I said we had 10 grandchildren. That's actually now not true. We have 13 grandchildren, because the girl that Michael has just remarried has 3 children. I forgot to factor that in. So they live in Johannesburg, and I'd like to see them as frequently as we can, but that hasn't been that possible because of COVID. Going back to Christopher, he lives in Hout Bay. He's also self-employed. He's got a company called Westerns, and it's all to do with security equipment. And he's got 2 little boys, one of 5.5 and one of a year old. And then my youngest son, he's a captain, flies 747s all over the world. And but he got married about 2 years ago, and he had a little girl, and so Christopher and Anthony had children within 3 weeks of one another.
Yeah.
So there were 2 grandchildren very quick. And Anthony is now, on the 25th of this month, leaving to emigrate to America. So he'll be taking his wife and his little girl with him. So, yes, it's going to be tough.
Oh, shame. Are you called into action as a grandmother very often?
All the time. Yes, all the time. Yes. On every Wednesday, I spend the entire day in Hout Bay with the 2 little boys, and on a Tuesday, I spend the day with the little girl.
Right. And does that suggest you're fully retired from work, or do you still have some projects going? You said your company closed.
Yes, it did. And about this time last year, one of my clients called me. As far as I knew, I was retired, and I had started some projects. And one of my clients called me and said, we need you, come. So a year ago, I started working for one client, and I do not intend making it any more than that. So I am retired.
But a bit of an interest and a bit of pocket money, maybe.
That's correct. And meeting people. I love people, and I love being out there meeting people.
Yes.
And the people I work for and with are amazing, lovely people. And I don't sometimes feel as if it is work, actually. I feel as if I'm cheating. And
nice.
And the projects I'd started painting, and I really enjoy that. It's very relaxing.
So what kind of painting?
Acrylic on work. Yes.
Okay.
Acrylic work.
And has it been a new hobby, or is this something you've done?
Totally new. I didn't even know if I could do it. I just had this inner feeling that it was something inside me that was creative that I'd like to do. So, yeah.
Okay.
And then I got, when John and I moved together, suddenly all the family photographs from everywhere piled up and landed with me. So I've started writing my memoirs and including photographs, and it's not something that's ever going to be published. It's just for a legacy for my children. And it's been fascinating because I started asking myself questions about why did my parents come to South Africa? Why did they make that journey? What was happening in the UK and Europe at the time? So I haven't made it, well, I hope I haven't made it too boring. I've sort of gone a bit laterally to find out why things happened and that sort of thing.
Well, it's a nice project to have.
Yeah, but I need to have more time for...
I was going to say, I'm sure you have to have discipline and regular routine to keep writing.
Yes.
Do you type?
I do.
Right.
I do.
Okay. And it's tell us about, well, I was going to end this question with how did you find your way to RUC? But to go back a bit, I mean, was church, was Christianity part of your upbringing and part of your life?
Yeah, it always has been, because I was christened in the Presbyterian church. My mother was a Presbyterian, and then my father was an Anglican, and I then went to St. Cyprian's, so religion was very much part of our... We had chapel every morning, and I was confirmed into the Anglican church by Reverend King at the time, when I was about 12 years old. And then when I lived in Hermanus, I was a member of St. Peter's, and that's where my children were christened. And then when I moved back to Cape Town, I just every now and again went to St. Thomas's, which was at top of Sandown Road. But when John and I got together, we felt that there was something missing in our lives. So we decided that we would find a place that we could both go to. And we did quite a bit of research and visiting, and we came to RUC, and I think this is something that you know already, but we just felt so comfortable here and loved the sermons that Robert gave. And at tea time, people saw that we were new, and they came and spoke to us. We didn't stand there feeling awkward or anything like that. So so we became members of RUC.
And then you've been on the church council for a few years now as well. How's that been?
You've just told me I'm the longest serving member, but it's... I think I'm only really, maybe I just take a long time to adapt, but being on a church council was something I'd never done before. And because I'd been in corporates and meeting deadlines and things like this, initially I found it very slow, and would we ever get anything done? So I had a huge adaptation to make, because... simply because my career was meeting deadlines, and this had to be done by that, and churches don't work that way. And it's a wonderful slow down of way of thinking and being able to think deeper. And yes, so to answer your question, it's been a journey, and one that I'm enjoying even more now towards the end, rather than getting bored of it.
Good. Okay, thank you. And so you touched on the recent hobby with, the acrylic painting. What else has sort of been your recreation, your light relief, what made you smile apart from work and caring for family? I mean, did you have time for play, for fun, hobbies?
Well, not really when I was at the waterfront, or largely when I was running my own business, because that was, I worked even over the weekends, and it was crazy. But when John and I met and we started hiking, we do a lot of hiking. And so Tuesday mornings and Thursday mornings, that's when you'll find us out and about. We belong to 3 hiking groups, and lovely people, and we love being out in the country, in the open air, and just enjoying and absorbing everything that it offers us. Being out there is it's wonderful. It's de-stressing.
The perfect city for that, really.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're spoiled for choice of where to go and what to do, and absolutely. Yeah, we count ourselves as being extremely fortunate. Yeah.
And some Pilates, I understand.
Oh, yes, Pilates. Well, I came to Pilates through quite an interesting way, because I fell on the mountain and I hurt my back. And I was in agony. Anyway, after I felt that it healed, somebody said to me, go to Pilates. I said, how can I do Pilates when I've got back that doesn't work? Anyway, I did. I listened. I now go twice a week. And it has made such a difference to my back. And yeah, I feel as if I can climb all mountains.
Wonderful. Okay. So Annette, what's next for you? Do you have some things on the horizon, things you're looking forward to, some plans?
Well, I think that I'd have to revert to one of my original loves, and that was travel, because if my son was going to be in America, I'll have to go and visit. And my brother is now in Canada and on Vancouver Island, so I have been to visit him. So I can never go to the one without the other now. So I will. Yes, and John's son is in Florida.
Oh, so North America is calling.
North America is calling. Yes, and I have been to America before. So, and I loved it. It was wonderful. I just was on the East Coast and never touched on the West Coast. But yes, so...
and then Johannesburg, maybe, with your son.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So going to Johannesburg, I try to do at least once every 6 months, but then sometimes Michael comes down, like he did recently, to Plettenberg Bay with all 6 children. And,
my goodness.
And we all met him there, and it was like a real family reunion before Anthony leaves to go away. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Some travels on the horizon.
Yeah, I never find that I'm bored. I always have something to do, and I'm also fortunate. I have a lot of friends, so I get to see them too.
Right.
Yeah.
Great. And Annette, I see you brought your assistant there. Tell us a little bit more about her.
This is Truffles. She goes everywhere with me, Russell. She's an absolute amazing companion. And she was given to me by John for a birthday. And that was 5 years ago. And she's just a wonderful little companion and pet. And she goes hiking with us. She does 12 kilometers without worrying about anything. She just keeps up with us.
And been very well behaved. Hasn't said boo during our discussion.
Well, that's why I can take her everywhere. She's very well behaved, yes.
Have you always been a pet person?
Yes, we've always had dogs. But Truffles actually had a terrible experience a little while ago because we were on our way to Hermanus and we stopped at the Hohook Inn and we did some shopping and I let her out to relieve herself. And she was attacked by 2 pit bull terriers.
Ooh.
Yeah, and so she's very, very lucky to be alive. Apparently I screamed and I picked her up and the 2 pit bulls continued to attack her whilst she was in my arms. So I was traumatized as well. So. Yeah.
All right, well, thank you, Annette. It's been good to get to know you a bit better and to hear a bit more about your story. It sounds like it's going to be committed to print soon. May not be published, as you say.
Definitely not.
But at least we've got a bit of a snippet today. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Russell. Thank you. Thank you very much.